Welcome to the American Cream Show, providing you insight on how to achieve the American dream with cream. Credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. And now, here's your host of the American Cream, Hyacinth Henderson.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much here for joining me tonight. I am Hyacinth Henderson, your host for the American Cream Show. You are now tuned in to WZAB 880 The Biz, and we are live. Actually, I am live from Denver, Colorado. If you're hearing the sound of my voice right now, if you're on Facebook watching me, I'm actually in my hotel room. But nonetheless, I am here with you on tonight's show. So I have a great show in store for you. For those of you who joined me last week, thank you so much. I appreciate all the feedback that I received. We have just such a great array of information to cover. And I'm excited. I am excited to help you achieve the American dream on your terms. The purpose of CREAM is to help you redefine that so that you achieve the dream on your terms. And CREAM stands for credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. Now, before we get into that, I want to tell you all a little bit about who I am and what I do. I am a learner, a leader, and a lover. And I've been on this planet for 37 years this time around. I always say that I have to tell my age because of the industry that I am in. I am in the financial planning industry. I'm the money lady, and I look young. I don't look 37. I will be 38 in August. Actually, in about 3 weeks, I'll be 38 years old. So I have no problem with telling my age. I've been in the finance industry for the past 17 years, and I share that with you so that you don't get the impression or feel like I just rolled over and started a radio show. So I am not new to this. I am true to this. By day, I am the managing director at the Henderson Financial Group. We are a full service financial planning and investment advisory firm. The firm was started I've been there 17 years. But the firm was started over 30 years ago by my father, Mr. Robert Henderson Jr. He's a certified financial planner. And right now I have a full team. We have a full team, a full staff. We are like a family. We really, really enjoy what we do. We're constantly learning. We're constantly seeking more information and more knowledge because we understand that the topic of money and finance is so very important. So again, I'm Hyacinth Henderson. You're tuned in to 880 The Biz. You may be watching me live on Facebook. If you are, thank you so much. Hey, Anna, I see you. Thank you for your support. If you want to call into the radio station, the number is 305-541-2350. You can also stream the show live at 880thebiz.com. That way you can hear if people call in. I'm presently in Denver, Colorado. As I stated, I've been doing this 17 years. I'm a licensed stockbroker, a licensed investment advisor, a licensed insurance and annuity broker. And I'm currently studying for my certified financial planner designation. And for those of you who may not be familiar with that designation, as my pops, Mr. Henderson, likes to say, the CFP is like the black belt in karate, right? So in karate, you know that there are different levels to it. The CFP is the black belt. We specialize. You have to go through an extensive course and training to be considered a CFP. So that's a little bit about who I am and what I'm doing in this capacity, how I'm serving currently in the present capacity. The American Cream, as I stated before, is all about helping you redefine the American dream on your terms, because I understand that most people don't know what the American dream is. They don't know what it means to them. You've either been sold or told what the dream is, and it just hasn't been working for you. And one of my goals is to help you open your mind, be enlightened so that you can realize that you absolutely can redefine the dream on your terms, and it's your duty to do that. This show is strictly educational. I'm licensed and regulated, so that means that I'm not giving any blanket advice. This is not a one size fits all, but I know the importance of education. With education, we will be able to use the tools that we have properly. And it's kind of like if someone says to me, "Oh, Hyacinth, I'm going to give you a toolbox for your birthday because you need some tools." And they may give me a toolbox with all the latest and expensive tools in it. And I have no working knowledge. I've never built anything in my life. I would take those tools and they probably would sit in my garage, as opposed to someone else who has experience, who studied the use of tools and wood shop and things like that. They would be able to use those tools in a more efficient way. And understanding that, I understand that's the same way that money works. So we're told that we need to have money. We're told that we need to understand money, but we don't know the rules of the game. We haven't been taught how to use the tools to our advantage so that we can actually live the American dream. And so that's where I come in. If you're just joining me, again, I'm Hyacinth Henderson from the Henderson Financial Group. You're listening to 880 The Biz, and my show tonight is called The American Cream, and we will be discussing credit. Now, before I get into tonight's topic, I want to share with you two real world examples that I just experienced. And I think it's very important for me to share this with you so that you can have an idea of just how important this information is, so that you can have an idea of just how important education and knowledge is, so that you can not only seek help for yourself, but for the people that are around you. So one of the first examples that I want to share is I was in the bank. I found myself in the bank. And before I walked in the bank, I said, "Oh, goodness gracious, I pray for patience every day. I pray for patience. And I know when I walk in this bank, my patience is going to be tested." The line was out the door. Cool, no problem. I made it through. As I got closer to my turn was coming up next, I overheard the bank teller having a conversation with a customer that was at the window. And if she was a younger girl, I would probably say she was 18 or 19, the customer, and she wanted to cash a check. And the bank teller said, "Well, I can't cash this check for you. I can deposit it." And the younger girl said, "Well, why not?" And the teller said, "Oh, because, just the way your account is." And the young girl just cut her off and she said, "Well, I'll just take it to, what's the name of that place? The check cashing." She said, "I'll just take it to Amscott and then I'll bring it back if you can't cash this check for me." And when she said that, I stood in line and I cringed. And I really wanted to shout out in the bank and say, "No, no, no, baby girl, don't take it to Amscott. They're going to charge you and take your money. Let me tell you, just go to the bank that the check is drawn on." But I didn't. And I said I needed to bring this topic to the radio so that all those with ears who can hear it, the sound of my voice, can understand. And maybe we can have these conversations amongst ourselves, and definitely amongst our children. So here's a quick educational moment. And by the way, the bank teller never said anything to her either. So what do I mean by when I say you can take the check to the bank that the check is drawn on? That's a fancy word for if someone gives you a check and you look on the bottom of that check and in fine print it says Wells Fargo, and you find yourself at Bank of America, and you try to deposit it into your Bank of America account, they may say we're going to have to, excuse me, if you try to cash the check, they may advise that they're going to have to deposit it and hold it because they don't, quote, and I'm air quoting, have the funds. The check wasn't drawn on that bank. So sometimes people find themselves in a situation where they need their money immediately. I don't want you depositing my check and holding it for 2 days or 3 days because I need my money now. The turnaround to that, or the tip, is if you find yourself in that position, don't go to one of these check cashing stores because they're preying on people who don't know. They're preying on people who they feel have limited knowledge and are desperate and are in a bind. And when you go to a check cashing store, they charge you a fee to give you the service. So instead of doing that, read the fine print. And if you find yourself where you need to cash a check instead of depositing it, look and see who that check is drawn on, and then go to that bank. And when you go to that bank, you will be able to then cash that check because they quote unquote have the money in the bank, which that's a radio show for a different story, because ain't no banks, they're not holding the money in the back of the bank, in the back of the room in the safe. They aren't doing that. But that is some of the games that we play, and that's important information for you to know. And share that. Have conversations with your children. After today's show, have these conversations. Say, hey, let me show you something. Let me show you what this means when this bank's name is on this check. Let me show you why you might not want to go to a check cashing store. So that's the first real world experience that I had this week. The second real world experience that I had came via Facebook. And I got an inbox, and I'm going to read the inbox to you. And the message on the inbox said, it was the thought of the day, the power of compound interest. If you put $20,000 in a Roth IRA for your children prior to them turning 15 years old, that's at an amount of $5,500 per year max, and never put another penny in there again, by the time they turn 60 and are ready to retire, they will have close to $1 million, earning an average of 8% or more. And so this message came in my inbox, and the person, I didn't make that post. It was a client of ours, actually. And she said, is this true? And she tagged me on the person's page, and the person who posted it, I would say they're an influencer. They have hundreds of thousands of people. The post had been shared and liked a large amount of times. And I said to her, I said, girl, she tagged me on the post too. And she said, why don't you know? And I said, well, I'm not going to go in somebody else's house and tell them that their floor is dirty. But what I will do is I will take it to the radio show. And the reason I want to take it to the radio show is because this is a perfect example of what I started when I said we need to know the rules of the game so that we can use the tools effectively to our advantage. So this example says, if you put your money in an account into a Roth IRA, you can earn compounding interest and have $1 million, and your children will be rich, rich, rich. Yes, it sounds easy, but there's some more to that. First of all, let's talk about compounding interest and what that is and what it is not, and what the real benefit of compounding interest is. So this is the vocabulary word for this week. Last week, we talked about arbitrage. This week is compounding interest. When you think about compounding interest, Einstein said that it's the eighth wonder of the world. What I want you to consider is not all compounding interest is created equal. Compound interest, that's the eighth wonder of the world, is uninterrupted compounding interest. So in that example where he said, if you put $5,500 a year into an account, your kid will have $1 million by the time they're 60 or they get ready to retire. That is assuming that the stock market never goes down. That's assuming that you get a guaranteed, consistent 8% rate of return on your money. Where does that happen? We all know what the stock market does. It does what it wants to do. And that doesn't even take into consideration the fees that are going to be associated with the brokerage account. And it doesn't matter if you're in mutual funds. It doesn't matter if you're invested in stocks or bonds or whatever the case may be. There are a lot of variables. And so I said I wanted to bring that to the show because there is a lot of misinformation or incomplete information. And my job here on this radio show is to educate you so that you can start thinking in a different way. So sure, the topic of a Roth IRA may be something that you want to consider, right? Sure, the topic of investing for your children at an early age to set them up so that by the time they're 60, they have a nice nest egg. I love that. That's something that you want to consider. But again, you don't want to be like me with a fresh new set of tools and ain't building nothing. You want to have the tools and be able to build something so that by the time you're ready to look at the fruits of your labor, you've actually built something worth value. So those are the two real world examples that I wanted to bring to you. We will go into that more probably on another show because I want to get into tonight's topic. And tonight's topic is credit. And credit is one of those things that, either you love it or you hate it. And it's one of those things that most people don't understand. So the first thing that I want you to think about is, I want you to understand that out of I need to be able to turn my notifications off. I need you to understand that according to a recent report by the American Bankers Association, out of 176 million credit card users, 44% are revolvers. So hold that thought. So according to the American Bankers Association, there are 176 million with an M credit card users, 44% are revolvers. What does that mean? If you're a revolver, you carry a balance. When you carry a balance every month, that means you are giving away free money. Remember that compound interest that we just talked about, the eighth wonder of the world? When you carry a credit card balance, the credit card company is earning compound interest. So you wonder why when you start paying, okay, I owe, a $500 and I want to get this credit card balance down really quickly. So I'm going to start overpaying. You wonder why when you start overpaying your credit card bills, that it seems like you're overpaying forever and your balance isn't going down. The reason why is because the credit card company is earning compounding interest. So in essence, when you carry a balance on your credit card, you are really playing on the losing side. You are a member of the losing team. The credit card company in that case is the winning team. But that's a misconception. Most people, they want to come into my office and they want to tell me, oh, I have to carry a balance because I need credit. I need to keep my credit score up, blah, blah, blah. We'll come back to that. So think about it. Ask yourself, are you amongst the 44% who are a revolver and who is making the credit card company rich? The next 29.5% of credit card users are transactors. They don't carry a balance. Now let's stop. Let's hold that thought right there. You would probably be thinking, if you're thinking like an average American, you're saying, well, these people don't carry a balance. I thought that you needed to carry a balance because that's how you keep your credit score up and the use of credit, and you need to make sure the 30%, the 70%, or whatever the case may be. That is an average way of thinking. That's an example of having tools that you really don't understand how to use. So when we think about credit, what I want you to think about is credit is a privilege. Credit is like, it grants you access to a secret society. What do I mean by that? What I mean is your use of credit is what is going to make you an average American or make you an above average American. So if you're using credit like the 44% who are revolvers and are carrying a balance and making the credit card companies rich, then you're not going to get ahead very, very well. You're going to be like the average Americans, which I understand. Most people think that if they just keep doing what they're doing and putting money away over time and paying off their debts over time, that they will get rich. And that's not the case. So credit, I want you to think about it and say, well, what do the 29.5% of credit users that are transactors and they don't carry a balance, what do they know that I don't know? Okay, get this. So the first thing is we understand that, yes, America says you need a credit score and you need a good credit score. Why do you need a good credit score? Because the people who don't know you, they got to be able to look at something and say, okay, Hyacinth's ability to pay back what we bought, what we loaned her is XYZ based on her score, right? That is one reason why you need a credit score. But I don't want you to get caught up in creating a credit score, going into debt with lots of credit cards, and then becoming a revolver and making the credit card companies rich. So when you think about credit, you got to think about, how can I use this credit tool to the best of my ability? How can I use this credit tool in such a way that I am making me rich and not the credit card companies rich? And the first way is to understand that, number one, credit is not an extension of your budget. Let me say that again. Credit is not an extension of your budget. If you don't have the cash money to pay for it, you can't afford it. Credit is not a reason to say, well, I really want to go on this vacation. I'll just put on the credit card and carry a balance, because the credit card companies will then earn lots of compounding interest off of you. So first of all, understanding that and then teaching your children that. The next thing I want to go into is the fact that people feel like credit is the root, I don't want to say the root of all evil, but credit is a segue to getting into debt, and debt is just a bad, bad, bad thing. Once again, if you're just joining me, I am Hyacinth Henderson, broadcasting live on 880 The Biz. If you have any questions, you can call in. If you'd like to chime in, call in to 305-541-2350. I'm live in Denver. That's why it doesn't look like I'm in the studio. I am in Denver, Colorado at this time. We are going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back from commercial break, I'm going to finish this conversation because we really got to understand this credit thing.
Zion Shipping, specializing in cargo to every country. 1117 Northeast 163rd Street, Suite C, North Miami Beach, Florida 33162. Drop-off locations in Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties, and throughout the United States. We ship to every country in Latin America, in the Caribbean, and throughout the United States. We specialize in express cargo 2 to 3 days. Zion Shipping, 1117 Northeast 163rd Street, Suite C, North Miami Beach, Florida 33162. For more information, call us at 305-515-2616, extension number 1. 305-515-2616, extension number 1. Or visit us at our website at www.zionships.com. Zion Shipping. We specialize in cargo to every country.
Hi, I'm attorney Kurt Thompson. When you're injured in a car accident, it can be a traumatic event in your life. If you or your loved one are in an accident, we are here for you. Call 1-888-HURT-971. 1-888-HURT-971. Let us represent you. Before you talk to the insurance companies, call me at 1-888-HURT-971. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I will pick up the phone. 1-888-HURT-971. 1-888-HURT-971. When you're injured in a car accident, call attorney Kurt Thompson at 1-888-HURT-971. Remember, when you're hurt, call Kurt. 1-888-HURT-971. I have recovered millions of dollars for accident victims. Again, hurt, call Kurt. 1-888-HURT-971. Consultations are free, and I can be reached at 1-888-HURT-971. Offices in Boca and throughout Florida.
Hi, everybody. This is James T. from Minimally Invasive Surgery. Dr. Ronald Moore, MD. Dr. Moore, what makes your practice so different?
One of the things that I think distinguishes our practice from other practices is we actually try to treat everyone that walks through our door family. I've actually operated on some of my family members, and I try to treat my patients with that same level of respect, the same level of compassion, and the same level of detail that I would anyone that I see and I'm responsible for on a daily basis. And that permeates throughout my entire staff. When I'm in the hospital, I demand that of my nurses, and I have awesome nurses throughout the hospitals here in South Florida through which I work. And that's kind of my standard. That would be my brand, is the level of compassion, detail, and genuine concern for the patient that we have.
Visit moreroboticsurgery.com. That's MOORE roboticsurgery.com. Or dial 954-797-4220. 954-797-4220.
All right. Thank you all so much. If you are just tuning in, I am Hyacinth Henderson. You are listening to The American Cream, where we help you redefine the American dream with cream. That's credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. You're listening to me either on Facebook or live on 880 The Biz. On your AM dial, WZAB. If you want to chime in to the conversation, feel free to call in 305-541-2350. And tonight we are talking about credit, the use of credit, how to use credit, and why you need to understand the best way to use credit that benefits you and not the credit card companies, not the banks, not everybody else. So if you're just joining me, we're going to pick up where we left off. I left with telling the audience or sharing a staggering statistic that really 44% of credit card users are revolvers. And what that means in plain terms is 44 people are giving away free money. If you are carrying a balance on your credit card company, you are on your credit cards, you are paying high amounts of compounding interest instead of earning compounding interest. So that's one of the first things that I wanted to mention. The next thing I went on was talking about credit. 29.5% of credit card users are transactors. And what does that mean? Those are the people like myself who understand how to use the credit game to our advantage. We only use credit cards not as an extension of our budget, but we use it as leverage to get what we want. We don't use credit cards to go into a lot of debt and pay these credit card companies by carrying a balance. And so how do you work that? Well, the first thing is you got to understand, you have to understand the power of credit. And credit, your credit rating, is what gives you leverage when you want to borrow OPM, other people's money. Now, that takes me back to the topic of debt. There is a common misconception. I want everybody who has ears that can hear the sound of my voice to understand that debt is not bad. It is the use of debt that either makes it good or bad. There is nothing fun about using all of your cash and pouring it into something and not having cash left over. When you have a credit score, when you understand the credit system, when you have worked to educate yourself, you then understand how to use your credit to leverage and use debt in a good way. What do I mean by that? Well, using debt in a good way is using debt that allows you to have somebody else pay the debt off, right? Not you paying the debt off. If you find yourself in a position where you have to go to work, you have to get up out of your bed, get off your couch, or do something that you don't want to do so that you can pay off the debt, then that debt is not paying for itself. How do you get debt to pay for itself? Number one, real estate. Y'all know I love real estate. We're not going to get into details about real estate tonight. We will get into details about that perhaps on next week's show. But I just want you to start thinking about debt. And when you think about debt and you say, okay, Hyacinth is telling us that debt allows me to use other people's money, still keep some of my money in case I need to move and maneuver. But I got to figure out how to use debt in such a way that I can get other people to pay for it. And if you listen to last week's show, the term that I gave you was arbitrage. So if you weren't live on last week's show, I want you to make sure you go to my Facebook and recap and catch up on that show, because arbitrage is something that's very powerful that we talked about. But tonight, I want you to think about debt and your use of it. And your use of debt should be in such a way that you are constantly trying to figure out how you can make more money, how you can use these other people's money to make more money for you, how you can use these other people's money so that you can gain access to opportunities, because that's really what it's about. They want you to believe that you got to get this high credit score so that you can qualify for credit cards and so that you can get a mortgage that you're going in the house that you're going to live in and be stuck working a job that you don't like to pay off this debt. That's wrong. Again, this is education, but that is wrong. That's not how we use debt. We use debt. We understand, okay, I do have to get my credit score where I need to be because these people don't know me and they're going to judge me based on something. Let them judge me based on my credit score. But when they give me access to the credit, when they give me access to the debt, access to the capital, I am not using this capital and going, buying the latest red bottoms. I'm not using this capital to take my dream vacation. I am now using my credit and this access to capital that I didn't have before to help me grow some money, because that's what it's about. Your purpose for money is to grow it. It's not to save it. It's not to spend it. It's to grow it. And why do you want to grow it? Because you want to be in a position to not have to get up and trade time for dollars. If you think about that, I want you to ask yourself, if you don't get out of bed, tomorrow's Saturday, but if you don't get out of bed on Monday, or some of us work on Saturdays, if you don't get out of bed, how much money are you bringing in? And that goes for entrepreneurs as well. Sit down and think about that and ask yourself, and then say, okay, now that Hyacinth put it like that, I think I am going to tap in a little bit and get in tune with my credit and how to use credit in such a way that it benefits me and not the lender and not the credit card company. So the first thing that I want you to do is to be in tune with your credit. I found that there are so many people who don't want to be in tune with their credit or their credit score. They don't know what it is. I ask this question all the time: how's your credit? And either I get a, oh, it's very good, or I get a, I'm not too sure. And if it's an I'm not too sure, 9 times out of 10, it's not very good. And that's okay, because as I explained last week, credit is one of those things that all you have to do is put the time and the effort in as you understand it, and you can change your credit score. You can literally go from like increase your credit score 20 to 30 points in 30 days. So in order for you to do that, you got to be in tune. And the first step, the first tool that I'm going to give you today is to pull your credit report. Pull your credit report. Pull your credit report, find out what's on there, find out who you ain't paying, what collections, what charge-offs are on there. Look at it. You have to be able to look at the problem in the face before, instead of avoiding it. Because if you don't look at the problem, then you won't be able to fix the problem. And I forgot to tell y'all, I'm a fire sign. I'm very passionate about this. It may sound like I'm fussing, but I'm just discussing. So I'm not fussing, I'm just discussing. And I want you to get this, because I don't want you to be like the average American. I want you to redefine the American dream on your terms based on the knowledge and the information that I'm sharing with you, because it's time for change. I've been doing this 17 years. You know, my dad's been doing it for 30 years. The money problem, money situation has been going on long enough, and it's time for change. So that's why we're here. Back to your credit. Be in tune with it. Figure out what your credit score is. Figure out how you can improve your credit. Seek help. The second thing I want to mention is credit cards are not an extension of your budget, and you have to learn how to use credit responsibly. How do you use credit responsibly? You use credit as a way to get a seat at the table. And then when you get a seat at the table, you have to understand the rules, understand what your interest rates are, understand what your late fees are. Most people are giving away free money by paying their credit card bills late and just saying, oh, don't worry about it, I'll just pay a late fee. Most people are giving away free money because they have 28% interest rates on their credit cards, and they're carrying a balance because you have been misinformed that you need to carry a balance on all your 5 to 10 credit cards so that you can increase your credit score. And then my question becomes, what are you increasing your credit score for? What's the purpose of you increasing your credit score? The purpose of you increasing your credit score is so that you can have access to capital to get you in the room to be able to use their money as leverage. So we talked about being in tune with your credit. We talked about the credit cards. My thing is, if you can't afford to buy it cash, you don't need to put it on a credit card. And one of the tips and tricks that I'm going to give you is whatever it is that you think you want, that you think you must have absolutely right now in this instant, get it while it's hot, I got to have everything society, is write it down, and if revisit it in 30 days. So when you come back in 30 days, if that item that you wrote down, you still desire it, then you really want it, and go buy it. Everything that you want to have, I want you to write it down. I'm not talking about your needs. You know, you need to pay the light bill and stuff like that. I'm talking about the stuff that you don't need. If you something that you want, it's a new iPhone that came out, write it down. Let me tell you, I'm in Denver, Colorado right now. I had to go buy a $30 pair of headphones, iPhone headphones, to be able to do this show. My headphones have been out for over a year. They wouldn't get my $30. But because I'm live at in Denver, Colorado, and I needed to be able to do the show, I had to then go to Target and buy the headphones. So when you think about what you're spending, I want you to move in that way. It's not about if you have the money. It's about if you need to buy that item, and if you're using your money in the best way that's going to work for you. So if you start controlling your spending, you'll start to control your credit card balances. And when you control your credit card balances, you'll start to reverse and eliminate some of that compounding interest that the credit card companies are earning. So when I ask you to write it down, you may think, okay, Hyacinth, but what is that about? It's really about you psychologically being true with yourself. It's really about you psychologically stepping in and saying, is this an emotional want, or is this something that I need? And if you want something today, write it down. And then if you want something else tomorrow, Write that down too. But the key is you have to go back to the first item and cross that off of your list. And the 30-day clock starts to tick again. And then what happens is you start to be in more control. And then you get out of the habit of charging things to your credit card. Amazon, how many of us need to delete the Amazon app off of our phone? Because they make it very, very easy where all you got to do is swipe and click one tap. And before you know it, they're taking the money from your bank account or your credit card company, and the item is at your house in 2 days. But you got to ask yourself, how is that helping you? How is that really and truly helping you get to the space that you want to be in? If it's not helping you, then it's hurting you. It's only two sides of the coin. It's not three sides of the coin. It's only two. Either it's helping you or it's hurting you. And in money talk, either it's growing your money or it's depleting your money. And nobody wants to work forever. I don't care how much you like your job. You don't want to work forever. You want to be able to say, you know what? I'm like a squirrel. I am making this good money. I'm getting up every day, going to help people, serving people. But I am doing this also with the understanding that one day, someday, I may not want to get up and do this anymore. One day, someday, I may want to go on vacation. I may want to travel the world. I may just want to retire. And how are you going to be able to do that? You need to be able to have your money growing for you so that you can do that. And you're not a slave to your job. You're not a slave to corporate America. You're not a slave to the county. You're not a slave to anyone. You start using credit, using your money in such a way that you then start to understand the rules of the game. Because when I started this thing, I said, listen, most people don't understand the money rules. All we're told is you got to get some money, then you got to get a credit score, then you got to use your credit, then pay 30%, pay 70%. No. Ask yourself, sit down and really ask yourself, how is that benefiting you? How is you carrying a balance on your credit cards really helping you? And I don't want you to think about, well, because I have a balance on my credit card, this next company wants to give me more credit too. You're right. They want to extend more credit because they want a piece of the action too. They want to charge you compounding interest as well. So again, if you're just tuning in, I'm Hyacinth Henderson. You're listening to the American Cream Show on 880 The Biz. You can catch us on 880thebiz.com. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, or on my social media, Hyacinth Like the Flower. And tonight we're talking about credit. We're talking about compounding interest. We're talking about how to use credit and credit cards to your advantage. Because let me tell you something. If you are using credit or misusing credit, you're making everybody rich but you. And let me tell you, the banks have enough money. They don't really need your money. They want to entice you and believe, yes, ma'am, you, and no, ma'am, no, sir, you, to make you believe and feel like if you have your money in the bank that they're really for you. But that's not the case. The banks, think about this. When you want to, I don't care how much money you have in the bank. When you want to borrow from them, you can have $100,000 in the bank and they know you. And let me give a shout out to my banker, Jerry. I love you. You're so good to me. You are so good to me. I understand, but I have to tell the people the truth because I know you're going to text me after this. The truth is, if you can have $100,000 in the bank, the minute you ask them to loan you some money, you got to jump through hoops. You have to jump through hoops, and they're charging you a high rate of interest. And when I say a high rate of interest, I'm saying in comparison to what they're paying you. Because I want you to pull out your bank statement and look at the amount of interest that they're giving you, even with $100,000 in the bank. If you need a loan, they're going to ask you for your credit. They're going to ask you are you employed? They're going to want to know how much reserves you have. They're going to want to know all these things. And then people start to wonder and question, well, I thought you were my friend. They get caught up in social media. They get caught up in believing that having a lot of money in the bank is really going to benefit you. And it's not. It is a common misconception. The banks, it's a cartel. I'm going to call it what it is. The banking system is a cartel. It is a cartel. It is run by banks. They get together, they make all the rules. And then what they do is they get the politicians involved and the government involved and they say, okay, tell the people that this is how it has to be. And then they're going to believe us and they're going to think that this is the way it's supposed to be. And so people start to follow suit. But really ask yourself, how is that benefiting you? You don't have to believe me. Look at your situation. Think about the people around you. And I know it's not your fault. It's not your fault because you didn't know. You were just told that you needed to achieve the American dream, but nobody gave you the tools and the knowledge on how to use the tools correctly. And that's what this show is about. This show is to teach you how to use the tools correctly so that you can start winning, so that you can start using your money to make more money. You can start using credit. My good friend says, listen, they know how to leverage you. Why don't you leverage them? That's the kind of conversations we have. They know how to leverage you. Why don't you leverage them? So when you think about credit, I want you to think beyond your credit score. I want you to think beyond the amount of credit cards you have. I want you to look at the interest. I want you to look at how much they're charging you. I want you to look at research compounding interest. That's the word for today, compound interest. And compound interest in layman's terms is interest on top of interest. So yes, you may have borrowed or charged up $50, but unless you pay that entire $50 balance at the end of the billing cycle, they're going to charge you interest on that. And guess what? Next month, you don't just owe back the $50. You owe the $50 plus the interest, plus interest on the interest of the $50. Now, when you think about that, you come to understand and realize why it takes you so long to pay off your credit card bills, why it takes you. So then the natural question is, okay, if the banks are the kings and the credit card companies have this compounding interest thing down pat, how can I get in on the action? How can I really and truly earn compounding interest that is uninterrupted, that's going to help me get to the promised land? And there are all types of tools. There are all types of accounts and things like that that the average American doesn't know about. The above average American knows about it. The exceptional American, the wealthy people, we understand that. But the average American, they don't know. We just go by what we're told and what we're sold. And I want you to think about something. Anytime you have a large group of people put it on the internet, they put it on TV, they put it on commercials. If you see it on TV, you see the commercials, that's a sure sign, a sure, truly sign that maybe that's something that maybe that's something I need to research. Because let me tell you, the American dream, the standard American dream is about money. And it's about getting money, the most money that they can get for themselves, not for you. So when you see all this in consumer advertising, that's a whole conversation for a whole topic for another radio show. But consumer advertising, I think, is awful. Because again, you watch TV, you watch Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case may be, and you're constantly being asked and taunted to spend your money. You're constantly being made to feel like you got to buy these things. You're constantly being made to feel like, oh, you have to charge it. You can get this rewards. You can get all these different things by doing what we tell you to do. And when you look up and say, gosh darn it, Hyacinth, I really don't have nothing. My family doesn't have nothing. My children don't have nothing, and I'm not teaching them nothing. And it's time for change. It's time for a difference. It's time for a different result. Insanity is a definition of doing the same thing over and over again. And when I say over and over again, I'm talking about for generations to come. And we're here. It's time to break generational curses. It's time to understand, okay, how do I use this? Don't just tell me that credit is bad. Don't just tell me that debt is bad. Don't tell me to stay away from credit. Help me understand how I can use other people's money to my advantage. And one of the first things you have to do, as I explained, is you got to pull your credit. You got to see what's on there. And when you see what's on there, you got to devise a plan. If you got some stuff that's on your credit you need to get rid of, go ahead and get rid of it. Do what you need to do to clean up your credit score. Then you have to be responsible with your credit cards. And then definitely you have to start having these conversations with your children immediately. Don't have the conversations that we had coming up. And that conversation was leave them credit cards alone. Why? Help me understand what is it about credit cards that we need to leave alone? Because it's not the credit cards, it's the compounding interest that you're paying. And so then when you peak that interest, then you say, well, what is compound interest and how can I get in on the action? You see how that works? Every experience, everything that you're exposed to is for a reason. And you have to get into a position to where you realize it's for a reason. Although it's not the reason is not what you can see on the surface. You got to be able to dig deeper. Because when you dig deeper, that's how you can get into the place of understanding. And all you're get understanding. And when you start to understand, then you will be able to understand the rules of the game. You will be able to use the tools more effectively. So instead of saying, leave the credit cards alone, instead of saying, get out of debt, well, why? Oh, because if you get in debt, then XYZ is going to happen. No, 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 no. I want to know more about this debt thing. Because I know all the rich and wealthy people, they certainly are not paying cash money for everything. If you are paying cash money for everything, you are not using your money to the best of its ability. Your money isn't working. It is working inefficiently instead of efficiently. Let me say that again. If you are paying cash money for everything, your money is on the bench. It is working inefficiently. One of the things I love to shock people with is when you pay these houses off cash, you really, really think that you're doing something, and it's you're not. I'm not going to say it's one of the worst things that you can do, but it's one of the most uneducated decisions that you can make. Because the question that I ask you is, if you have cash money, $100,000, $200,000 to pay off your house cash, what happens next? I just told you that the purpose of money was to grow it. So if you take your $200,000 and pay it off cash, what then happens? What happens? So I want you to think about that. I want you to look around and say, you know what? That's true, because the neighbor whose house has a mortgage on it, your house worth the same thing and your house is paid off cash. And as a matter of fact, if something happens to your house, you're at more risk. If you live in Florida or, one of these, California has fires, Florida has hurricanes. I heard it was flooding in New Orleans. Imagine if you paid your house off cash because you didn't want to have no debt and a hurricane came through. What you gonna get? What happened to your cash? And yes, let's talk about insurance. We can talk about it on another day. But I want you to just think of that. Wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't it seem wiser to use the $200,000 cash or whatever amount of money you have to use it and leverage it? You know what, house? You know what, Mr. Mortgage Man? Sit right there. Sit tight. Sit tight. You're going to get it when you get it. I'm going to pay you I'm going to slow feed you. I'm going to pay you monthly drips. I'm going to get a low interest rate. I'm going to pay you in monthly drips, because with my cash money, what am I going to do? We talked about arbitrage. I am going to earn a higher rate of interest with my cash. I'm not going to put my cash into my property and put it into the walls and be sitting around looking hungry. Sitting around saying I can't go nowhere, but my house is paid off. Sitting around saying, I really need some new kitchen cabinets. I need to send my grandkids to college. I need to do all these things, but I'm broke because I paid my house off cash. And we all know, and I hope that if you didn't know, I hope everyone under the sound of my voice understands that even if you pay your house off cash, it ain't yours. Let me say that again. Even if you pay your house off cash, it's not yours, because God forbid you pay your house off cash and you can't pay the property taxes. You don't use all your cash to pay the house off, and the tax man like, knock, knock, knock. Your property taxes due. Oh, you ain't paying for a couple years? Don't worry about it. We're going to auction your house off, and you got to get up out of here. So think about that. Think about home ownership in that way. Think about everything that you do. You got to be thinking from a mindset of, how is this helping me make more money? How am I growing from this? How can I use my credit to leverage other people's money? When we talk about credit in houses, get you a mortgage. Leverage them people money. Leverage the bank's money. Leverage their money, even if you can pay your house cash 20 times over. You know what you should then be doing with your other money? You should be making it grow for you. If you got cash, $200,000 to pay your primary residence off cash, I would much rather you use that $200,000 to pay a down payment on investment property, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 50 there. You don't put $50,000 on 4 investment properties. And you know what I believe about investment properties? They got to at least have 2 doors. Because if one of the tenants lose their mind, don't want to pay their rent, the other tenant got some sense and they paying theirs. So I would much rather you think about the benefit of leveraging your cash Take the 200,000 and invest it in multiple pieces of property. Invest it in multiple investments. If you want to put a little in the stock market, put a little in the stock market. You want to put a little in real estate, put a little in real estate. But I mean, come on. That paying your house off cash, that was something that, that was a dream of ours years ago before I was born. And what that really comes from is because we couldn't buy houses. And if you're a woman, I understand you couldn't sign a mortgage without a male co-signer. So thinking about all the chains of events that happened back in the days, things have changed now. Things have changed. No longer is it a badge of honor to be able to say, I paid my house off cash. Because if you do, I'm asking you why. Do you not understand how to use debt? Do you not understand leverage? Do you not understand other people's money? How is your credit? Did you buy a house cash because you got bad credit? Well, if you have bad credit, let me tell you why you need to repair your credit. Let me tell you how to repair your credit. Because when you repair your credit and you can start using credit in a way that's going to benefit you. Your goal and your job is not to save money. When you pay a house off cash, you are, quote unquote, putting the money in the walls. Your goal and your responsibility is to use your money in a way that makes more money for you. I am Hyacinth Henderson, stockbroker, investment advisor, insurance and annuity broker, managing director at the Henderson Financial Group. You're now tuned in live to 880 The Biz. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to call in 305-541-2350. Please follow me on my Facebook. It's Hyacinth Like the Flower. It's the photo with the orange background. Hyacinth Like the Flower. You can catch me on Instagram at Hyacinth Henderson. Share this information. Share this message. Share this post. I guarantee you, everyone under the sound of my voice learned something today. You learned something today. And if you didn't learn something today, it at least sparked a new thought in your mind. And if it sparked a new thought in your mind, you have a duty and you have a responsibility to share that with people that you know. You have a duty and a responsibility to share that with your kids, your family, your friends, with everybody around you. You know why? Because when they make money, when you make money and they make money, they're not asking to borrow your money, right? They're not. And we all want to win. We all want to redefine the American dream. That's my time. I hear the music in my ear. I'm Hyacinth Henderson, broadcasting live from Denver, Colorado. Thank you for tuning in to the American Cream. Join me next Friday and each and every Friday at 9 p.m. That's my time. Peace.
You've been listening to the American Cream Podcast, the #1 audio production show for people who want to achieve the American dream with cream. Love this episode of the American Cream? Head over to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. For free resources and materials, go to theamericancreampodcast.com. Hyacinth Henderson is a registered representative of IFS Securities located in Atlanta, Georgia. FINRA, MSRB, SIPC. Any discussion of taxes herein is for informational purposes. You should consult with an attorney or an accountant concerning tax advice.